One thing I want to say about that that's really important is the team goal is very important. I go into organization after organization that says they want to be team-based and they only reward people individually. I'm not saying you have to have a team performance appraisal necessarily, but you've got to reward the whole team. We were talking, and that was such an important point, and I know you do this, and a lot of your leadership work is around having fun. That work needs to be fun. It's not like we're in this black and white life where work is over here and fun's over here. They need to be integrated. You know, the most effective parents I've seen getting their kids to do chores are ones that make it fun. But what's also important in terms of having fun is that your customers get to experience some of that too. So when people really love what you're doing, that makes it even more important. And we're here for the team goal. The more you can get team rewards going, it makes a difference. I want to give you a quick example that I saw that was fascinating to me. My daughter is one of these high school POMs, and they have these big POMs competitions. They're huge ordeals, which I didn't know. They have judges, and it's very serious, and all the teams sit by high schools. They do such a common sense reward system. What do they have? They have something called the Spirit Award. And the Spirit Award has very specific criteria in terms of how you win the Spirit Award. And it's by being positive, supportive, no negative comments. They don't have an ounce of trouble in these competitions. They don't have fights between teams. They don't have fights between parents. They don't have major conflicts. There's a very positive feeling. Why? They set up a team reward system that it's not about just whether you're this high school or this high school. It's about the Montgomery County POMs in this case, and we're going to reward you based on that, and we're going to let you know from criteria that you're going to win the award if you show support for the other teams. Team-based rewards are critical. People really need to learn to be able to talk to each other and say, hey, you know, Pete, I always pick on Pete, you know, hey, Pete, when you said X, Y, and Z to me, I really took offense. Can we talk about it? All right? Or, hey, you know, Shirley, I know you put your heart and soul in. Can we make a few corrections and talk about what needs to be improved? We need to be okay to be able to do that stuff face to face. I, as a consultant, get my data from two major places when I don't know what's going on. Give me some guesses, because I know you know this. Where do I get them? Where do I get the real data of what's really going on when people aren't sharing it with me because they're not feeling comfortable? I already gave you a hint about one of them. One's in the bathroom. Now, you know, it's unfortunate, but I only go into ladies' rooms, so I don't know what happens in the men's room. That's one place, okay? Other places where I'd really get my data. Cafeteria, great. People are socializing, cafeteria, great. Another place is often executive assistants, secretaries. They know the story, you know? If you can be their friend, you're going to have the culture under your fingernails within an hour or two, am I right? They know what's going on, and they will tell you if you make friends with them respectfully. So this is where you can get some of that data, but it would be really wonderful if you didn't have to go there. And some of these top teams you don't. They will talk to you because they talk to each other. I remember reading a magazine article about couples. And Cokie Roberts, do you remember her from NPR? She was interviewed. And she was interviewed about her marriage that has lasted many, many years and has been a good marriage. And they interviewed her among other people. And they said to her, now you'll know why this probably stuck in my head. They said to her, I bite my tongue a lot. So of course this stuck in my head because, as you can guess, Liz Berney doesn't bite her tongue half enough as she should. But she has some impulse control and some discipline. You know, she thinks to herself before she acts and says, gee, my husband's really irritating me at this moment. What's it going to get me to let him know how much he's irritating me versus being constructive or letting it go? Now, I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying, you know, I just said to you earlier, it's important to be direct and tell people what's going on in teams, constructively, but constructively. And this takes some discipline to sometimes choose your battles, right? Well, what she was saying is, in my marriage, I choose my battles. And the discipline here is very important, that the high-performing, high-engagement teams have this discipline that keeps them from being catty and petty, that says, you know what, so-and-so is irritating me, or that person's being way too controlling, but you know what? Here's our mission, here's our vision, here's what we want to achieve, here's what I care about. I'm going to let that go. Or I'm going to deal with it directly, but I'm not going to talk behind their back. They somehow have this discipline which is not easy to have. Here comes the important one. You all talked about this one. This is the one you talked the most about, a common, meaningful purpose. It's really hard to be on a team if you don't buy into what you're there for, right? And I would give you one caveat. Should everything be done in teams? What do you think? There are times you're in team meetings and you think we could have exchanged this on email, right? There are times you're in team meetings when one person has all the information they need to make the decision and they know everyone's going to support them. You've got to be strategic, especially you folks. You don't have time for more team meetings than you need, unless you're all dying to have more team meetings. How many want more team meetings? Oh, come on, I know you do. Not one hand. You have a lot of team meetings. Teams are wonderful. They're part of this culture here. But you want to be strategic. When you call a team together, you're calling a team together because you need a group of people with different perspectives, different talents to achieve something that's important, right? If you can do something on email, you should do something on email. So really think about whether it's a necessary and useful use of teams. It's easy for me to talk to you about this. It's much harder to implement it. So I came up with a checklist for you. So you are team leader, and you're calling together an interdepartmental team meeting. It's a new task force doing something really important, and you're on your own, and it's your first one you've ever done as team leader. What do you do to start it up? Here's our startup list based on the research that I've talked to you about. First thing we're going to do is talk about what our mission and our goals are. And I'm not going to talk at you, right? I'm going to ask each one of you why this is important to you, what you want to get out of it, and we're going to create a vision and a mission for the group together. Okay? All right. Do the team members find the team and the project goals motivating? Remember we said it has to capture you somehow? If they're not motivating, we've got to find a way to make them motivating. The best way to do that is to find out what everyone really cares about and pull people together. Okay. Clear on roles and responsibilities. That's our first step. Our second step is going right where you were, which is even when it's clear, if you need some help, I'm going to help you. Or we're going to find new ways to work together. But having those things clear helps. A lot of times I get called in, help us with these personality conflicts on our team. That's not what the real underlying source of the problem is. It's the symptom. A lot of times I thought that was my role, you thought it was your role. Okay? All right. Procedures and policies clear. Expectations around standards. Boy, is that a big one. That is such a big one. I do a lot of work with, at GW with the MBA students, and they work in cohorts. And they do great. We do all kinds of team building. They learn to talk to each other. They learn their Myers-Briggs types. They develop, strong goals and feelings about their teamwork. When it falls apart, it's not that someone's not holding their own because they're all working hard. They have different standards. So they set their goals, but they never make the standards clear. And then there are conflicts. And then I'm so uncomfortable telling poor Pete again that, he had some typos on that paper that I had to fix. So I just fix them myself, and then I'm resentful. So they don't yet have a way of really saying, okay, what level does this have to be at? And to give each other feedback. Again, learning here. We need to grow and learn together by giving each other coaching and feedback rather than be scared about giving people some constructive criticism. Okay. Are the standards perceived realistic and challenging? I know it's hard to believe. If they're too easy, you may not get inspired. I know this is a lot of stuff, but you're going to have this checklist to work with. And I'm telling you, if you actually go through this checklist with your team at the first meeting, even though it's going to take some time, your team's going to be in good shape if you keep it going. Make sure there are places to communicate, email, phone meetings, calls. Who said the resources earlier? Yeah. Do we have the resources? But you know what? If you don't, what can you do? If you don't have the resources you need, what can you do? Let's brainstorm.
Make the team go and get them.
Make the team go and get them. We'll have a little scavenger hunt. Find ways to get them to be creative. What else? We may need to renegotiate our task and say, hey, if you want X, we need A, B, and C. If you only give us a little bit of C, maybe we can pull it off. But if you can't give us any C, we're not going to be able to pull off X, and here's what we can do. Not no, we won't do it, but here's what we can do. We can only do what we can humanly do. So as team leader, you try to get the resources you can, you do your best, and sometimes you have to renegotiate the mission. This doing more with less is not realistic. Am I speaking to the choir here?
No, I think we often.
So you really have to imagine what it's like to be in their shoes. So we're having this meeting, and this person came into the meeting 5 minutes late, and I'm annoyed because I got here on time. And this person, we don't know where she or he just came from, right? So some of you are resonating to this. I'm seeing some nods. But it's hard to do because everyone feels stressed. But how do you really imagine yourself in the other people's shoes? The other thing you said around criticism. You know, I think back to the Myers-Briggs or when you did the color inventory and the different personalities. Some of us like our feedback gentle, like me. Liz, what color am I, Kate? Can't remember. I'm green. It's obvious, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, I get it. I'm green. I like my feedback gentle. I do want it. I want it to learn and grow and develop. And I want it. You're going to think I don't because I give you a little subtle message of this sometimes because my feelings get hurt easily. So I need it gently. Sometimes I need one of those positive feedback sandwiches that some of you think are very inauthentic. Say something nice, then say the real thing, say something nice again. But you know what? It's nice for me. It gives me perspective that I'm really not a terrible person and I just need to work on something. Some of you want your feedback very differently, right? Hit me straight, direct, no bull, right? So we need to find out what everybody needs and wants differently because it makes for a lot of problems. If you give me the straight, direct, no bull, I'm going to go hide. And if you give someone else the positive feedback sandwich, they're going to be ill, right? So you got to find out what they need and what they want and then give it to them in a way that responds to them, not to you. The problem is we all do it. We all give people feedback the way we want it, right? Which doesn't work. Okay, my kids will say, "Oh, Mom, please, not Psych 101. I have a lot to do. Just tell me what you need me to do." You know, and they'll say, "No, I'm not a bad person. I don't need therapy, Mom. Just tell me." Because they don't want it the way I want it, and it's embarrassing. And I say, "Oh, of course." Interpersonal dynamics, we know those always happen all the time, but I'll tell you a lot of the time, they're symptoms. They're not the underlying sources. You may say, "Oh, there's some difficult people on my team," or "They're so angry or cranky." They're symptoms usually. It doesn't mean some people aren't going to irritate you more than others, but it's usually because the roles aren't clear, so someone's annoyed, or the goals aren't clear, or I don't buy into the goals, so I'm grumpy at the meetings. It usually is more infrastructural. You get the goals clear, you get the roles clear, you get the procedures clear, and you're going to prevent a lot of that. Lack of buy-in to the team goals. You all spoke to that over and over again. The reason why some of our teams here are such success is we believe in what our team is doing. Okay. So, let's put this together now. This was written by someone who did a lot of research on, what he calls cross-functional teams, what you call interdepartmental teams. So this is for you leaders, okay, who want to run really good interdepartmental teams and make them work. What can I do? Let's be real concrete and strategic. Know your cookies. He says, you need to know what you're talking about. So even though you may not have all the technical expertise or scientific or business or medical that everyone on your team does, you need to show a true hard effort that you're trying to learn it, okay? You need to be able to talk about what you're doing. Work and play well with others. You are the guide. You are the facilitator. You need to do it. You need to learn how to do it if you don't know how to do it. You need to ask for feedback. But let's add something. Team members need to do some of this too. And you can teach your team members to say, you know what, guys, if you're not happy with the way the meeting's going, I would really appreciate it if you'd let me know, or if you'd think about what you could do to shift it, rather than how team members will go, and they're not doing it to be difficult necessarily, they're uncomfortable, so they go in the bathroom and they talk about it, or in the cafeteria about what a stupid meeting it was. Rather than in the meeting, now it's not easy, saying, hey Ed, you've talked about this for a while, I want to take it in a different direction, are you open to that? The team members have to put out some of that too, and take some responsibility, but your job is to make it safe for them to do that, and to say, this is what I want from you as a team. The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitude of mind. My son is reading Anne Frank. He's 12 years old, and he said to me, I just can't believe it. She has no food, she can't go to the house, she knows she's probably going to die, and she sees the beauty of nature. How does she do that? And look what E.E. Cummings says. Yes is a world, and in this world of yes, live all worlds. So remember all the strengths you came up with. There were many, many, and that's what energizes you all to stay here. It was great talking to you. Thank you.